And we're back for those first tuning in. This is WPWL 103.7 FM, Pulling Public Radio, coming live from the Rush studio. If you're listening on the stream from the Facebook page or in your car, welcome. This is Marcy's World. I'm Dr. Nancy Iankowitz, your host. So we are in the health and wellness segment of our program, and we're going to discuss, as promised, how we can help our children get the most out of the television programs and the mixed messages that commercials offer us. At one point we had discussed how commercials really negatively impact people by saying, oh, you know, when they're flying kites, meanwhile the words are saying this medicine can kill you, and everybody's having a picnic, so there are mixed messages there. We're going to see what kind of mixed messages are getting to our kids and how it's impacted our kids. With me in the studio, I have Jessica Iankowitz, who's a human resources professional graduate from Georgetown University. She's passionate about human capital and positively affecting the new wave of expectations and responsibilities of today's dynamic world. And as you know, the children are becoming our future. So they're receiving messages from our environment, particularly television. Today she joins me to discuss women and men in the workplace and the impact of television and commercials on the lives of their children, how this can negatively or positively impact parents. We don't even have to go into details about how the messages impact the parents, because I think that's going to be intuitive as we discuss how we can affect the impact of television on the children. Can we make a difference, and how can we do it? So Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. So we are going to talk about the impact of TV on kids, the impact of commercials and the mixed messages, as we were discussing yesterday together. I just would like to hear your thoughts on that as a millennial and from what you've observed in the workplace with your colleagues who have children and, you know, who just are around children. Go ahead.
So first, there are different ways of parenting. Some are very sensitive and protective. They like to censor a lot of whatever comes through the television to their children. And others are laid back, and they just give the kids the tools they feel that are necessary to be able to filter and recognize the messages that are coming at them. And I found that the latter is more constructive to the development of the child, and that's what I'd like to go into with you right now.
You know, you just said laid back, so I wouldn't consider myself laid back at all. But what? Well, you know what I used to do when my kids were listening to. I could not stop my children from sneaking around, and you know, the 8, 9, 10-year-olds at the time watching television programs or movies, Lifetime. Oh God, all those kinds of things, the things that I'm finding out now that the kids watched.
Yeah.
But when I was able to, I would sit in on those programs.
Yes, you did.
And that was really, you know, obnoxious. But what I would do is comment as we were watching.
But it was instructive, because then your voice was forever in our heads whenever we watched anything. Like, oh, look at that mixed message. That makes no sense. They just said this and then they did that.
Right. So just, yeah. And so that's a technique that parents can use. When you have children who tend to be a little bit sneaky.
So they can watch whatever they want, but you'll be right there.
Be right there. But see, that doesn't work for parents who want to sit their kids down in front of television for the younger kids, that, you know, as a babysitter, when people are using TV as a babysitter.
And it's particularly hard for those who aren't home at all because of their work hours. So what are they to do? Exactly. Some people have the parental control on the television, having that filter so
the
certain
smart
channels
TV,
don't come through. But what they fail to recognize is that that's going to make some children feel all the more inclined to go to their friend's home and watch those movies and shows just to see what is it that I'm not supposed to be watching.
Right.
And
well, what are the messages? No, I know about the nightmares. Absolutely. So let's talk about second graders and third graders. For those who are not completely overscheduled with all types of sports activities, which is actually wonderful for physical activity, that they have sports activities.
Yeah.
But for those who are not that overscheduled and have a few free hours and who don't only play computer games and who actually do watch TV, what about the commercials on television that you see? Because those are really subtle, and you made a comment about advertising for Mean Girls or advertising for different movies and things
Well,
that
it's
are
just
shown.
funny that when you go to the theater today, you can be going to watch a PG movie, but the trailer could be PG-13, rated R. I don't understand how Hollywood is pairing those trailers with the movies. It's the audience is wrong. But is that where you're going? with
Yes,
that
what I'm
question?
hearing and what I've heard from you here and from people outside is the sensory input, visual, auditory, and visual on the screen, which is moving, and in snapshots, in magazines, where they're airbrushed, and then auditory, the sounds that we hear. Some of them are competitive, some of them are saying one thing and doing another, as with the medications. But there are definitely images for people, let's say, in my generation, people who were in their 50s or their 60s. We saw the Barbie doll situation where women were expected to have a certain body type. So that was a very subtle message given to people.
Of what ideal looks like and what
Exactly.
beauty is.
And it was not uncommon for women, young women in their teens and early 20s, who saw these images from when they were, toddlers and second and third and fifth and seventh graders. Then all of a sudden they're in their late teens or early 20s. It was not uncommon for them to use sexuality to try to get a job or get a promotion or whatever. This generation, the millennials, things are different. Why?
Well, I think because, we're just now you're talking about females, and
Yes.
it's definitely a huge area of concern, but I also want to bring men into it, and
Absolutely.
all the pressures that go on with little boys growing up and figuring out where their place is in society, expectations and so forth. But I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
lost the
okay.
question you just
No,
said.
that's all right. See, okay, so now we're talking about an umbrella. The umbrella term, the umbrella title here is, how is the media, television, movies, and commercials impacting our youth? How can we make sure our children get the messages we want them to get?
By setting the example. Right now we're talking about all the messages that are coming through with television, music, movies. But the biggest one that your kids will forever have a front seat for is you, the parents, whoever the guardian is. What messages are you giving them with the way you're dressing, what you're talking about, the way you're talking, the way you look? By look, I don't just mean makeup and presentation, but where your eyes are in a discussion with those children in the room. They're going to draw from whatever they get when their tapes are running during those scenes and apply them to everything else, what they get from the movies. Have you ever been around something and said, oh, I missed that the first time, a movie, for instance, watching it several times and certain scenes, certain lines just didn't compute and you had to watch it several times before it did?
Well, yeah, that's because I tend to lose concentration sometimes if the cat wants to get.
But everyone to a degree. It's fascinating to know when one listens to a song, when one watches a movie, when one's part of a discussion, what one takes from it.
So when one is tuning in, so the
Yeah, and
first
what
thing is
they're
eye
tuning
contact.
into, right.
So if you can maintain eye contact for any length of time, the chances are greater that you're actually absorbing the information.
You're plugged in, yes.
And feeling the other person's nodding or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if you're texting somebody, and nobody can, the person sees the words, but you don't really see the other person's eyes. How about people who are next to each other? No, but how about people who are next to each other having lunch together, but they're texting other people?
Well, what
So
about
their
them?
eyes are somewhere else, but they could be trying to listen to somebody else who's, no,
That's
they're
a little different
okay,
than
so
what
you're
I'm
saying,
trying to address.
so you're saying there are mixed messages given when parents say, I want you to pay attention and look at me when I talk to you, but when the parents talk to each other or to other siblings or whatever in the room with their back turned, or while they're texting to someone else, or while they're on the computer pulling something up.
And for the parents that don't say and don't enforce, eye contact if you want to have a discussion, that's fine, that's your rhythm in your household. but be aware of the message that you're giving them, and how could you then have an expectation of that child moving forward if you're not setting the example early on. It's just not matched properly, and I find that communication altogether has been heavily
Deteriorated.
diluted. Yeah.
Yes. So you're talking about parents kind of overriding any other messages by setting the tone and setting the rhythm and the example at home. But I want to know what you think, and I'm going to get to this after the break. I want to know some hints and tips that you think you can offer for parents to use while the children are watching certain programs, or after the children watched certain programs or saw certain movies with their friends.
And it seems
that
like
you
it's
may or may
the
not be
exact
aware
same
of.
tips and same examples that you'd use in the workplace. And we'll get into
We'll
those
get back
parallels
to that.
soon.
For those who are just tuning in, this is WPWL 103.7 FM, Pauling Public Radio out of the Rush Studio in Pauling. This is Marcy's World. I'm your host, Dr. Nancy Iankowitz, with your health and wellness segment, and we will be right back.